got some grown folks in hip-hop culture to be celebrating 50 years. And so it really challenged us to look at what we mean when we say culture. And so to be able to do this work and to be able to make these strides in this timeline, in this point in history, and connect it to voting rights is just so on brand for Alabama. I was today years old when I found out Johnny Cochran started in Dothan. I didn't know till you guys just said that, but that's just, you know, a lot of what we get here in Alabama. Many of our foreparents, various foot soldiers did things in the state, and we're just not aware of it. And that's the other piece of Transform Alabama. While we do amplify the importance of voting rights and helping people to understand the basics of civic engagement, the three branches of government, what a polling location is, like literally the basics, we also highlight our history because we have already done so much. And that message gets lost because the powers that be don't want us to know of whom we are. And so everything that we do, we make sure that we amplify the work that regular Alabamians have been doing for centuries and remind people that we are the descendants of these people. And in this era, it is our time to carry on the legacy that was started. You know, we can't get comfortable. As one of the mentors and advisors of our organization, Miss Annie Pearl Avery, reminds us of all the time, you know, the ball kind of got dropped after the civil rights movement because people got comfortable, but now is the perfect time to pick it up and get back to work. So that is what we are all about.
Amen. Amen. Daryl, you know, everybody forgets that Alabama is where it all happened, right? You know, that's why we go back every year for the Selma Jubilee, because without Alabama, people, listen to me loudly, throughout this country, throughout the world, if you're listening to us, without the state of Alabama and the courage of the people of the state of Alabama and so many others who fought for our voting rights, there would never be a Voting Rights Act of 1965. Right, Daryl?
Well, you're absolutely right, Barbara. You know, we do see Alabama, rightfully so, as the birthplace, right, for voting rights in America.
Yes.
I mean, it is ground zero. It is where it all kicked off for the voting rights struggle. And from Alabama, we received the Voting Rights Act of '65. So, you know, appropriately, you know, Alabama is viewed in that vein. But you know, Eldric, when we talk about Alabama and we talk about the voting rights, we're also talking about the college students and the young people that were there in Alabama that really made up a large part of the push for the voting rights struggle that's there. And, you know, you now are the president of the Youth and College Division of the NAACP in the state of Alabama. Can you share with us some of the actions that the Youth and College Division is taking to be certain that young folks stay engaged politically in voting in Alabama?
Yes, thank you for that. One of our biggest actions that we have taken as the Youth in College is first off getting people engaged and getting people knowledgeable about the topics about voter education, regular education, health, anything that helps us as colored people, because we are set back in so many different ways. We are already 2 steps behind, as I know a lot of older people would say we have to take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back compared to other races a lot of times. So making sure that our generation is knowledgeable about who's running for office, what are their policies, what is their track record, what did they do before they took these seats. So, yes, we start out with NAACP, getting them to join that. And then we get them to move further and learn more about voter education. Then we dig deeper into that, and we get into health. We get into everyday life. We get into politics. We get into business. We get into finances. We get into anything into advancing us and advancing our community and advancing our generation.
Wow. And Eldric, when you were with us for those, 7 days in good old Phoenix, Arizona, when we did the Gen Z and Young Millennial voting rights leadership training, you know, you when you were there and you met all those other amazing Gen Z and millennial leaders, what did that mean for you? How did what did that do for you? How have you been able to apply that since you returned back to Alabama?
First off, I want to thank you all again for that amazing opportunity that given me so much knowledge, and I've been able to grow in so many different ways. So immediately after coming back, I started talking to my chapter of the NAACP and other chapters in the state about helping out people who are incarcerated or who were incarcerated get their voting rights back. So that was the first thing, because I noticed that a lot of times we focus on getting people to the polls, but we don't always make the polls accessible for people. And I also want to make sure that, I also started focusing on voter accessibility for the disabled Americans, the disabled minorities, the people who want to vote but may not be able to get there to vote, who may have steps behind us. So those were the first two things that we started focusing on. And we started planning expungement drives to try to help people get their records expunged so they can have a second chance at life. We tried to do things to help people get registered to vote. I think this year, in total, the state of Alabama, youth in college, I may be wrong, we have registered over 1,000 voters this year.
All right now.
We have 500 members in the Youth in College Conference division across the state since I've taken presidency in September. So, yes, we have hit the ground running.
And that's great. And Rodreisha, everything that's happening in Alabama isn't all cookies and cream, though, right? We know that the Alabama state legislature, they got involved when the Supreme Court told them to create this second congressional district, and they more like said, go pound sand. We ain't going to do it. We're not going to give a second minority district, and ended up having to have a magistrate that was appointed from the federal court system to put together the map and all this other stuff. But Rodreisha, they didn't stop there, right? They came back with this really heinous Alabama Senate Bill 1, making it a felony for people to assist folks with their absentee ballots. Rodreisha, what's going on? What's going on? 20-year max, 2-year minimum, $10,000 fine for helping somebody vote? Come on.
But wait a minute, everybody. Let me just read you what the summary. This is the summary of the bill written by the darn state legislature itself. It says, synopsis, this bill would prohibit any person from ordering, requesting, collecting, pre-filling, obtaining, or delivering an absentee ballot application or absentee ballot of a voter in certain circumstances. That's what it says. Did you hear us?
Yes.
Go ahead, Rodreisha.
Yes.
Come on, Rodreisha.
And this is real. This is real. And I want to shout out Alabama Values, who is a communication hub, who is also a panelist at our gala, who has been sending out a lot of messaging, in particular to the SB1. We have to understand that this is another heightened level of voter suppression, of voter intimidation. It's one of those things where you took in 10 steps forward and 10 steps back, because we are in such a conservative state here in the state of Alabama. And we have to understand that they're going to stop at nothing to make sure that organizations that are out here doing the good work, getting in good trouble, are being criminalized for assisting folks that need it the most. I mean, there should be no reason, after we've already passed the 1965 Voting Rights Act that's covered everything from our raciality to all the way to our disabilities, that there should be any reason that anybody is capable of assisting and informing somebody of how to vote, that should even be a crime. But we have to understand this dynamic really quick. We are in a state where we still have 3 strikes you're out rule, okay? If you are a 3-time felon, you will go to life for prison. And so with thousands of folks that are still incarcerated under the 3-strike you're out rule for low-level drug crimes, things like that, all it takes is one person to be charged with this who already has 2 felonies to go to prison for the rest of our life. People don't understand that. We're just looking at it as folks are going to be charged. But what are the people that are out there organizing and giving out information on voter engagement? A lot of them are formerly incarcerated people. These are people who are serving their country at the end of their time, and they want to be a productive citizen, as ADC wants them to be when they come out, to do the goodwill. So now what you're saying is you're putting a monkey on their back and you're scaring them back to going to prison for life for assisting folks with voter registration. We have a serious problem. We have a serious problem. And if we don't continue to mobilize our voters and stop looking at all the stuff that's going on with Trump, that's voter intimidation too. All the things going on with Biden, that's voter intimidation too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that's happening right now, these folks in these prisons and jails coming back with no hearts, no brains, all this organ trafficking. This is nothing but to stop this general election and stop the power that we have to mobilize communities. So I thank y'all for listening to us because we're still in that fight.
No, you're right. You're right on it, Rodreisha. And Dr. Adia, I got to ask you because I want to be certain that our listeners understand precisely what Senate Bill 1 does. If your next door neighbor is incapacitated and cannot get out of the house, and they request their absentee ballot and it's mailed to them, and they ask you to come get the absentee ballot from their mailbox and give it to them and take it back and put it back into the mailbox, you will be guilty under this SB 1. And this SB 1, would say that person, once they're found guilty, that they would be facing a mandatory minimum of 2 years in jail, in prison, and up to 20-year max, and a $10,000 fine. We just listened to Brother Coleman talk about how they're trying to assist those with disabilities, physical disabilities, gaining access to being able to vote. Doesn't this bill do the exact opposite?
Exactly. And when you think about the number of people in the state of Alabama who are older, people who have disabilities and have, are in nursing homes and people that need help voting, this directly impacts them, and this is a tool of voter suppression and intimidation. And the thing about it, to Rodreisha's point, we have to make the main thing and spread this information throughout the state and let people know this is the real issue. And if your vote didn't matter, would they be going through these links? Like, this is completely, like, if we weren't here living it and seeing it every day, it would be really hard for me to believe that this is going on in this country, but it is. And so I think it gives us a great opportunity to use this to put everybody's focus on what is really at stake. As we talked about at the gala on Friday, we have seen in the past where Black people have had voting rights, because of Reconstruction, where Black men can vote, be elected to federal office. But in 1965, people are being bloodied on the Edmund Pettus Bridge to get that right back. So essentially the children and grandchildren of the Black men that voted and were elected to office in Alabama in the 1800s, they're fighting for those rights again. I don't want that for my children and grandchildren. I don't want them fighting for the rights that I had that they no longer have. But that is the tipping point that we are in right now. And the thing about history, you don't have the luxury of a do-over. Once it's done and that document is signed, it's much harder to get those rights back. And so while we're in this moment in time where we do have this right still, it is imperative that those of us that are in the know, those of us with that understanding, are doing everything in our power to get that word and get that message out, because it is real, and SB1 is not a game at all. And I hadn't even thought about Rodreisha's point about them targeting people who already have previous felonies. And as corrupt as this state is, I mean, you could just imagine. You could just imagine them doing that on purpose. So we really have our work cut out for us. But at the same time, we have a great opportunity. We really, really do in this moment, in this time. So great point.
Absolutely. And the boy from Troy, our amazing former Congressman John Lewis, he showed us the way as in his 20s, Eldric, He was out there, fighting and making a change. And now on your campuses, are people knowledgeable on your campus about SB1?